This podcast is brought to you by Hoare Chartered Accountants. Hoare Chartered Accountants are based in Galway City and are a leading provider of audit, accountancy and taxation services. For more information, visit hoarecharteredaccountants.ie. Now you're welcome along to the Maroon and White pod. So knockout football has arrived in the Senior and Intermediate Football Championship this weekend, with preliminary quarterfinals taking place in Senior and Intermediate, as well as the dreaded relegation semi-finals in Senior and Intermediate as well. And there's action, of course, in the Junior Championships over the weekend to look forward to. I'm joined by Seán O'Donnell to look ahead to the action. Seán, first off, last week, Padraic Joyce was announced and given a 3-year extension as Galway senior football manager. I suppose, what's your thoughts on Padraic Joyce continuing as Galway senior football manager?
Well, I suppose it's the county board that's done that decision. We all found it a bit strange. It's got the extra year, I suppose, like that. But I suppose that's showing confidence from the county board to their manager Padraic. There's a lot of whispers going out regarding, I suppose, his backroom team. There's a lot of talk about John Dibley. It was in the paper there, but nothing official come out there that it stood down. There's also talk out west here, but again, nothing official that Micheál O'Donnell has stood down. So that's two selectors, I suppose, that have stood down. I suppose we all looked at it. I suppose we knew Padraic would be staying, but we thought it'd be a total shake-up like Jack O'Connor did down in Kerry last year. That doesn't seem to be. So there is pressure on Padraic this year. I suppose that wasn't there the last 2 years regarding where us as supporters and media that a Connacht title is no good for Galway anymore. And I know that query has come up many times. We're doing a bit of a Mayo on it now at this stage, where we need to be, because last year was a disaster for Galway football, getting very well beaten by Meath, and then Meath showing that we weren't up to that level. So there is pressure on him this year. I suppose pressure he wouldn't have felt because the county board have backed him. We have a team where very talented footballers, very talented young age players coming through, but there is also whispers that players will be leaving and won't be coming back. So again, it's easy to be hearing whispers, and we won't know that until probably the first league match. And there is talk of the FBD coming back, or is that what we're going to call it? That kind of a divisional cup again for the John Printy Cup, as we call it sometimes, it's for Connacht. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because put it this way, there's more questions and answers at this moment in time. And again, Armagh is still reeling us. It was so hurtful because it was one we left behind us. And we see how Kerry come on looking strong. A lot of teams are rebuilding, but we do have some serious players there. We have some really good underage coming through, and hopefully that we can mold into a winning team. But it's not going to be easy, and that's the only thing. This year is his biggest challenge since he's actually started, I think.
Yeah, it probably is a year where we're not exactly at the top table now. I think you have to admit, given what happened against Meath comfortably defeated by Donegal, and you see what Kerry do to Donegal. We probably are back in the pack now heading into next year, and Galway obviously want to get back to contending, but we're probably not there just given the season we had at the minute. When you consider all that, is this the first year where the panel probably needs to be shaked up a bit? Some players obviously might depart and might not commit this year, and Padraic might bring in other new players into the panel this year when you're looking at it. But does it need a freshness, do you think?
Of course it does. And you look at Kerry, you look at all the teams, even Dublin when they were at the height. You need to bring freshness. You need competition. Maybe Padraic was a bit too, how do I say it, loyal to some players, and we know players that were injured and they were being I can't say forced. They were kind of, as I say, wished back into the team because we knew their importance, and unfortunately for Padraic, it didn't work out. These players that we thought, and one of your own guys, like in all fairness, like from your own club, Demo, just the injuries, and in all fairness, he was always trying to catch up, trying to get to that senior championship pace, and it was always behind him, and a huge loss. And he's one of the reasons you could say things didn't go well, and same with Shane Welch with injuries at the end. We do have the panel. We saw some great players like Costello from Dunmore and these guys, and it's a good opportunity for Padraic to be looking at the club championship, and this is where the selectors come and on the ground and league matches to see who's actually going well. The usual suspects are always playing well, but you're looking for that rough diamond, young 19, 20-year-old that maybe didn't get that look in, where he needs that opportunity in the league. And it's only one or two players we're talking about because there is still a good, very strong spine there for Galway. But again, we need to be. You talk about the top table. We're on the. I would say we're just at the top 8 again. We're not top 4. So, and that's based on last year. We only go back to the league. It wasn't great. Opportunity to relegate Kerry. Got hammered in Kerry in the stadium. They go on, win the league, and then the championship, as we know. But I think we need to park it behind us now and look kind of forward. It is what it is. We hope now that the new voices that come into Galway on the sign are well experienced. They will get the opportunity, as we heard about Cian O'Neill when he was talking after the All-Ireland about the free rein they got for coaching and those for the Kerry team, that maybe Padraic gets this to happen as well with, as I say, that these coaches and selectors get a chance to kind of leave their mark on the team, because Padraic's job as manager is to make sure he's got the right team in place, and that's his job.
Just before we look at the action, Sean, because obviously a huge amount of action to look forward to. Just a word for your inter-county teammate John Dibley. Obviously, being reported at the minute that he's departed the management setup this year for Galway. But just a word on his, I suppose, contribution and influence to this team over the last few years.
Oh, listen, what has been said about Divo as an old player friend and colleague and club and everything and achieved, and people forget that he played for Kildare then after us and back, and what he's achieved to date and still achieving with third level football, what he's done. He's an absolute star and huge commitment to this county. And we forget about the things where you'd see and a bit of social media. We used to go to local clubs around the county, giving free advice and stuff like that, like, and a pure gentleman, a pure scholar. And again, I'm going to put this, he owes nothing to Galway football. And it's just a huge pity that he didn't get the reward, which was that All-Ireland medal as a selector coach. And you talk to the players that were there during his era and still there, nothing but the height of respect for, they listened to every word he said, so much respect for him that when he spoke to them, they listened, and they knew when he did speak to them that he had a lot of wise words and coaching to give. And that's a huge thing of respect for any player. You never hear a bad word about the coach. And you know what I mean? I wish him success, whatever he does. And I know he will be more successful. And hopefully, and he won't be here at the end of Jono involved with Galway football, be it club or county or underage.
On the minor as well, actually, because we haven't touched on it on the podcast. Cosy Gilmore getting minor job. No surprise for a lot of people, really, when you consider the work Cosy has done with Galway underage squads for years now. I'd say it's nearly over a decade. He's been involved with underage squads and a really good under 16 team this year, which he'll now carry on working with to minor next year. It's not a surprise, really.
Oh, no, and it's great to see, say, the person, and it's called commitment, that's been there from the start. And he probably saw himself a few years there saying, you know what, I might get mentioned here, I might get, and getting kind of, as I say, looked over a good few years. But he kept the faith and he kept there, and it's great to see it. And then you said, like, there was I would have known a few of those players on that team that bet Kerry on the under 17s, and nothing again but huge respect. Good panel, good team, and again getting the rewards. Anytime you beat a good underage Kerry team, you know you have a good panel, and it's good to see that he's able to he's done a lot of good work with that team, and now he's bringing it on to the next level. But again, there was two teams in that, as I say, as they call it, the maroon and white. So there's more, but I hope to spread the net out more. I wouldn't call that stopping trials either, because there was a few players maybe didn't get a chance to, and maybe that's sometimes what happens with a lot of them. They that's my pot and that's it. There's a few players still out there that deserve an option and a chance, and if we do, and I think we too, as an underage, we don't have the mentality of the northern teams, meaning just because you win an All-Ireland medal minor, that isn't the end. It's just a stepping stone to senior. We seem to have that. We've had a lot of success underage over the years, and a lot of those players haven't flourished to the senior team where we thought we would have seen them. Why that happened, I don't know. But up in North, when they do win it, they continue on. You see a lot of those players on the senior team. So it's something we need to work on.
Yeah, and I think it would be great, Sean, wouldn't it, really, to get us back competitive at minor and 20s. Personally, I don't believe we should be competing at B level with the
No,
talent we have in this county at minor or 20s level.
no, and the B level wasn't done for Galway. It wasn't done for Mayo. It was done for the Leitrim's and those. Now, again, I know it's an extra game for those, but listen, it's no job at county level, be whatever it is, it's easy. There's a lot of time, a lot of commitment, and a bit of luck. And we were successful there, maybe going back 10 years ago. It was nearly always an option we're going to do at the back door. Now, Johnson's there under 20s, a very good guy, shrewd character, has a lot of experience. We know what he did with Clifden. We know what he did with up in Sligo and stuff like that. So a good guy. Interesting now what sideline he brings with him. But there's a lot of excitement there because there should be a good relationship between himself and PJ regarding these players coming through. And I hope that PJ gives him an opportunity to play under 20 because there was a few players last year that were brought in. And I always think give them a chance to excel because if you're excelling under 20, you'll do well senior, but there is a big gap between those two grades.
Looking at the action then, Sean, isn't it just great to have knockout football? I know we've had the groups over the last few weeks, but you got your three games, three teams coming out of each group. I think it's just great to have knockout football finally here.
Oh, yeah. Knockout. Thank God. This is where it is. There's no ifs and buts and back doors. This is where the championship starts, Paul. And it's brilliant regarding there's no ifs or buts, injuries, players over in America, they're on the drink, they're back and everything. This is what I love about it now because after this weekend, that's it. Football's over for a lot of these teams. And where you only get one chance at it. And that's it. So you'll see this now. There's going to be, you can see the tension in the clubs. You can feel it and the players, and there's no talk, and everyone's just kind of saying, this is the game. There's no back doors because there was a lot of games. This system for the seniors and intermediates doesn't seem to work where the last games were all, as I say, dead ducks. And that was it. And you don't want that because it was a bit like the county scene. So they'll have to tweak that. That's no good to anybody where you go into a game knowing it doesn't make a difference. So now we're there. It does make a difference because this is where you're going to go ahead or you're going to get relegated. So this is where the games count.
What have you made of the championship so far?
Put it this way, I'm still in snooze mode because it hasn't awakened yet. You look at all the teams, and we spoke earlier in this before the championship, and we had this talk about the power ratings and so that, and then you're looking at the teams and players missing, players not traveling, coming back, and all that stuff. It hasn't really given me any excitement, and we haven't been hearing, oh, this player's lighting up the championship, and if they do have one good game, we don't hear about them the second game or the third game. And it's again, we kind of see the older players who are there for the last 3 or 4 years are still doing the same work and the same action. So probably from a neutral, I wish I was hearing more about this underage talent coming through, and maybe they're not got the opportunity. But then again, the talent will rise at the end. And when you get to quarterfinal, semi-final stages, that's when the really kind of the players show up. So this is why I love this at the moment now. There's still a bit of shadow boxing going on now, talk-wise, but it hasn't started yet. And that's why I'm hoping now the championship starts.
Let's look at the first game. So on Saturday, Senior Football Championship preliminary quarter-final, Claregalway, Uachtarard, Saturday at 5 o'clock. Sort of difficult one here because you look at Claregalway, it was a heavy defeat to Dunmore. Where are they at coming into this one? You look at Uachtarard, I think they definitely did ride their luck a small bit in that game against Mountbellew. Mountbellew definitely left 2 or 3 goal chances behind them, and Kieran Noon pulled off some remarkable saves for Uachtarard in that one, but they got over it, and they have to take that as a positive. But I think it'll definitely need to be up to a few levels from Uachtarard this weekend.
Oh, big time. I'm looking at my notes here regarding, like you see there, I mean, if you look at Claregalway, they lost to Dunmore, they lost to Tuam. These are they were in their top 4 of your power rating. We look up Gerard, they lost to Salthill. You know what I mean? They're my number 1. In all fairness, but they bet Mountbellew and they bet Michaels. Now Michaels would be a team that we talk about relegation, and a Down who Claregalway bit a team with your own team are talking about relegation. So this is 2 teams are coming in really, I think, on a level pairing. You know what I mean at that, because they've shown their weaknesses and they've shown their strengths. But when they were beaten by very strong outfits. So it's kind of a strange one. We looked in Matthew Tierney, county standard again, putting up the big scores. Neil Lee came on in. Then we look at Claregalway, like Jack Mullen, then Padraic Cummins, all that. It's one of those games, it's going to come down to the end. And it'll come down to mistakes. And who really wants it more? Because that's what I'm saying. A preliminary, there's still nothing. You're safe for the year. You're the kind of way. So if you're asking me regarding who I think, I would go on Uachtarard than experience because Claregalway really haven't, as I said, I haven't seen the team that we thought that would be there with the backing and the underage talent that's there. Uachtarard are a seasoned team. They have a good management going there. So based on what I'm seeing, I could see Uachtarard there, but nothing much, maybe by 2, 3 max.
Yeah, you're looking at Claregalway. up front, and even the last day against Tuam, you had Daniel Fitzmaurice, you had Aina Monaghan, Killian Callahan, Jack Mullen, 1-5, Conor Flaherty, Jared O'Riordan, and then you look, obviously, Daniel Fitzmaurice gets taken off in the 36th minute, O'Riordan, 36 minutes as well. Danny Cummins obviously comes into two. But it's sort of for Claregalway this year. A lot has relied on Jack Mullen to get the scores inside, and Conor Flaherty to be out the pitch then, trying to be that link man.
Yeah, and like he's a top scorer. I think out of that 211 he scored one as a penalty. Like so, they're not putting the big scores up. Like I mean, like I think was it Padraic Cummins six and Connor five and Aina Monaghan four. Like the teams they done, but again, you have to look at the competition they were against and the talent. Like Tuam are serious outfit, seasoned. Dunmore, what we saw last year, seasoned, good forwards. So there was a lot of kind of the answers of why they weren't doing so good, and we see Oughterard where they had getting tough games against, and that last game against Mountbellew, and you're correct, they kind of scraped it. But I always like a team that scrapes it because they ride their luck. Like
Mm.
I lost many a game where, geez, we should have won and we didn't. So I always would rather the ones we should have lost and we won. So based on that's the reason I'm kind of backing Oughterard in that scenario. They're seasoned, they're good players again. So I kind of base it on that alone because Claregalway are very, very inexperienced team. Underage, there is no question, very talented, but they just don't seem to have that extra. I don't know. We haven't seen it yet where they every year we say they're going to break the duck, they're going to push big time, and we haven't seen it where we've seen from other teams.
Yeah, and even you look at Uachtaráid then, they kicked 111 against Mountbellew. They kicked three two-pointers in that game, so 6 points out of their 111, and we're two-pointers in that one. But it probably is when you look at Uachtaráid, it's probably the greater spread compared to Claregalway. You look at Enda Tierney, Matthew Tierney, Ryan Monaghan, Keane Monaghan, Adam Tierney. Now, Adam Tierney and the Monaghans didn't score, but they are crucial when Uachtaráid do turn it over because they have that bit of pace. Niall Lee even the last day, 1-3, and Eric Lee coming in the last day making a big impact, scoring 2 points.
Yeah, and he came in against Mountbellew, but again, and I think we mentioned this really early. We keep forgetting the two-pointer factor. Like, and you have a star like Matthew Tierney and Inda, two Monaghan guys like absolute stars. And I always say they came in, they didn't play well. These guys we were talking about against Mountbellew. So that when you don't play well and beat Mountbellew, you're there's nothing wrong. And if you could tweak that, and we've seen over the years and in the league and stuff like that. So they're a good team, good season. And when Matthew Tierney, which I'm hearing is flying form, I tell you, take two or three good clear call we get him in to keep him quiet. And I don't see that then. And as you said, the leads and all that stuff. So they're good. I'm based on that alone. I'm going to experience again where when the things get tough and rough, they've been there before. And again, as I say, Claregalway are coming in after a loss, and Loughborough they're coming in after a win. So that's the way I look at it. Where I mean, they only lost one game, and that was against Salthill Loughborough. That's the only game they lost. Where they were Claregalway had lost two. So I'm basing on that too. So it should be, let's say, Loughborough by two or three.
Yeah, and I do think for Matthew Cheney they'll probably look to get more from him. The last day they got a two-pointer and a free, but I think they'll look for probably more this weekend. But even when they're looking at it from Claregalway, you have Connor Campbell, Dara Whelan, Jack Lynn, Luke
Yeah.
O'Connor all there. Like they're all good man markers, and I think it's the one thing Claregalway have. They do have three or four good man markers there that could tie up some of those Uachtaráid players. But you're still going with Uachtaráid?
I am, and the players I mentioned there, and again, no arguments, serious good man markers, and proven county underage.
Mm.
But I'm still going with them, like because it's just there's such a gap in that, and just the old dog, and I'm not saying, geez, poor Matthew's not an old dog, but just the talent he is, and I've seen him over time, a big club man, and he can drag a team, and he's done it already. Like again, I think he's 12 to point, two two-pointers, deadly from a dead ball. And if you're going to give him a ball outside 50 meters, he'll pop it. And that's what I go like, you know. So I'm going still look through. How about yourself? What are you looking at? You're going to stay to your neighbours, are you?
I think there's a big one in Claregalway. I think they'll be disappointed with that performance against O'More. Against Down, they got the job done, and then against Tuam, they had a 2 point effort from Eamon McGrath late on. But I still can't see Claregalway winning this one. I'm with you here. I think he'll be there, but I think Claregalway will run them really close here. But I'm just going for Uachtaráid by the minimum here. I think they will scrape through it. Funnily enough, last year they actually met in the group. and Uachtar were cruising, and Claregalway came back, and Uachtar knocked Claregalway out of the championship last year and put them into relegation. So that could add to it this weekend as well.
It is funny, we have that conversation every year, Brown. We all expect this big one in Claregalway. Now it's going
Yeah.
to come. Trust me, it will arrive. And I hope whatever team is on the opposition of them, God help them. And it could be a big team like Corfin or Tuam, like an Ulster. But when it come, they will click. But I just find there's a little bit of not that big belief in them yet regarding, and it's experience because their underage have been so successful. And then that next step up, it hasn't evolved. And they have good coaches in over the years of that. So, but it's coming, but I don't think it's this year.
Yeah, and I think it does need to come at some stage in knockout
Yeah,
football for
and it
them.
will come because they have the players, they have the population out there, they have the teams. It's just to get that right click, and it will arrive.
Looking at the next preliminary quarterfinal in the senior championship, Sean, Dunmore-Michael's Leitir Móir Pearse Stadium, Sunday, 3 o'clock. A repeat of the intermediate final a few years ago, which Leitir Móir turned over Dunmore-Michael's. They met last year as well in the championship. Dunmore defeated them. It's going to be an interesting one here now. Like Dunmore, they've backed up that victory against Down. They made it 2 from 3. They've only lost to Tuam in the championship. While Leitir Móir, it's just been unfortunate with the injuries they picked up throughout this championship.
Oh, this to me is game of the week. You saw it on paper and it came up, and I said, this is what's going to happen because there was such rivalry and bite and a bit of more in it last year when they played in Tuam. And let's more into that match missing because of the few players, I think, if I'm not mistaken, had cards, so they weren't eligible to play. And it was there till the end. Classic. I remember watching it on the TV. I actually bought it. It shows you now how much I wanted to see it. It was a classic. Dunmore still had a young team at the time, and they went on to win it. Now, we have two teams who have improved since then. And that's what I like about this. Let's more have a serious, it's in the Pearse Stadium too, which, again, that's going to be an advantage to Leitir Móir because you're taking Dunmore out of Tuam. So the thing about it is, you look what happened. Leitir Móir started very bad. They lost to Miltown. And in all fairness, I was talking to one of their coaches, and he said, that's the worst they've played over years. It's just one of those things, I think. Now, again, a lot of us didn't take Miltown serious, and it was only when they drew with Corfin the next day how serious off with it. They went against Monavea then, and they bet Monavea not great. They played Corfin in the gale force wind day, only put up 5 with Corfin, but they've been missing 5. Now, what I'm hearing is these guys are back. Like we're talking Oshima Dunmore, we're talking Mattis Owen, Warren is back as well at that. Casey Calla is playing outstanding at the moment for Leitir Móir. You have Finn McDonagh back, Earl Curry. They have a serious coaching team. They have a serious team. They have their eye on Dunmore since last year. And if they wanted this game, now sometimes you shouldn't be careful what you wish for, but this is the game where I'm going to see this is going to be game of the week. Like Dunmore, like if you look at it, like the Costellos, Gleeson, Thomas Gleeson, they're putting up big scores. Like Costello scored 116. Like as you said yourself, they bet down. I wouldn't rate that one because, as we know, your own club are struggling at the moment. They lost to Tuam, and they just beat Claregalway.
The one thing I'd say about Dunmore-Michael's is, and I don't think the point is probably being referenced enough, but if you look at their defence for a start, Connor Mitchell was in the half-back line last year, not playing this year. Danny Ford, go-to man-marker, not playing this year in Australia. Colin Lyons, which is probably the next best man-marker, hasn't played yet. Like, as good as Dunmore are, I don't, and there's underage and everything coming, I don't think the depth is there that they can be without 3 quality defenders like that.
100%. Like, and these guys would have been at the start of the year, the boys saying, yeah, like again, like yourself, we were saying, this team is going to kick on. And the clubs outside the big clubs we're talking about, the big 4, they can't afford to lose 1 player. Don't talk about 3.
Yeah.
And you're going in there where I just mentioned a few players there from Leitir Móir. And all of a sudden, the guys you're talking about there, who would have been marking these players, aren't there. And all of a sudden there, you've got, you might say, 3 new defenders in there who are good lads, who you guarantee they'll be young, inexperienced. And you can see in the championship, the only game they won is just beating the Claregalway team where they bet a lot, you know what I mean? They bet Down, which again, they still let in 16 points against Down, 112 against Tuam, 112. They're big scores to be let in like that. Now they are putting up a little bit of a big score. This animal in Leitir Móir they're meeting is going to be a different team. Haven't shown their full force yet. And based on that alone, I think Leitir Móir win it. when I'm calling it home advantage, Pearse Stadium, the team there, Leitir Móir to win this by 4 points.
Leitir Móir to win it. That is
Yeah,
a call.
it's a call I'm putting out there. Listen, they're my noisy neighbours, but what I'm hearing on the grapevine, they're up for this. They're working hard, and this is their calling. They've had I wouldn't say a successful year. They're up to Division 1. We thought they'd win the local Comortas and the All-Ireland Comortas. Didn't go their way. Unlucky to now. It's going to click. I think it's this weekend, and maybe I'm going to be wrong, but I just think all the stars are aligning for this, and this is the game they wanted. This is the hardest one they could have got, but this is the one they wanted. And I think because of that, I'm going +3 for Leitir Móir. Also, what you said, the guys that are missing for Dunmore is at least the 3 points I'm talking about.
But then if you look at it from Dunmore from 8 to 15, Shane McGrath, Thomas Gleeson, Dylan Brady, Brendan Kerr, Jack Jordan, Colin Costello, Padraic Costello, Jake Slattery, like there is real quality there.
Listen, we know how good Colin Costello is, but they're not putting up the scores in the championship tonight. Like I think Colum's got 9, 1 2-pointer. What a talent, and Padraic Costello's brought it in full forward. Same thing as Freeze, but I just think we're coming back from Leitir Móir, the guys are coming back for them like that. It's just a scenario where I just think they're more seasoned, this Leitir Móir team, and they're more experienced. They're now playing their football. They got promoted to Division 1, and so they had a good season. They put up everything that they played. All right, they lost the final to McCullen, but it wasn't their full team out. Either was the McCullen that day. So I just think this is the moment. They're peaked. This is why I'm thinking I'm backing them. And I know you're probably going to say Dunmore, and you're right. I would have said Dunmore myself, but what I'm seeing on the paper and what they're missing and what Leitir Móir have. Leitir Móir, I find, are way stronger than last year to Dunmore, and that's why I'm going on.
Yeah, I'm probably going to disagree with you there. I just think there's more quality there from the Dunmore 8 to 15, and they've still been able to rack up 319 in the first game, 216 the last day. I think Shane McGrath and Thomas Gleeson have a good partnership going there. What will Leitir Móir do with Matthew Reddington, because he's been so effective at centre back? Like his runs are going to be huge for Leitir Móir to stop at the weekend. But I think for supporters here, there is potential to see the battle between Shane McGrath and Casey O'Kelly at the weekend, and what a battle this could be.
Oh, seriously, there's going to be blood there, and I'm not lying. There will be, because you've got two warriors, so dedicated to their clubs,
And two players that on current form should be close to a Galway call-up too.
Well, listen, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Whatever about you, like Casey, if he does, he deserves the call. But again, I'm going back to my commitment. A guy from the West going in there, and would you get the fair shot of the whip as well? That's another story. But I'm seeing your team of the week every week, and Casey's there. Casey's there, and he's fighting there, and he was good last year. This is not just a flash in the pan. And he had a bad injury at the start of the year, wasn't playing for a lot of the league. But every team needs a Casey O'Callaghan, because he's just a pure engine. And again, I don't think a lot of time, maybe I'm wrong, he doesn't get the kind of the credit for how skillful the player is. We keep talking about Seán Andy, who played for Galway, and Casey Younger in the middle. And again, this guy works hard labor every week, the kind of every day. He's not a school teacher. He's not there. This guy, and he's absolutely so, how do I say, so important to Leitir Móir team. When Casey plays well, Leitir Móir's played, and he does drag them on. And again, another reason why I'm backing them, because he's going well. And again, as you said, whoever wins that battle will have the upper hand in this game.
Yeah, as I said, I am going to disagree with you. I think Dunmore-Maree are going to win this one by 6 at the weekend.
6?
6.
Did you say 6?
I said 6.
You said it now. You can't back now. 6, you said.
Yeah. I just think with the players Leitir Móir didn't have in the last round, I think they're significant losses. But as you said, some of them could be right this weekend. But are they sort of fully right, if you get me? That'd be my only concern for Leitir Móir. But I just think Dunmore-Maree, as you see, they scored 216. Leitir Móir scored 5 points in their last game. So I think that'd be a big turnaround for Leitir Móir, if they were to turn them
got
over.
nothing to do with you were saying they were your dark horse for your power thing, is it? You have to back them.
Well, you sort of do have to back your dark horse. They need to go further. They need to go further than the
I didn't forget that.
final. Um,
No,
so
no, I agree with you, but it's one of those games. I just think that's the one we need to be all looking at because it's going to be a cracker. Now, I could be. I hope I'm totally. I hope I'm right because disappointing, but I just think these two teams. Let's go. The new rules suit both teams. It's all out attack, and there's going to be some hits in it, and that's what I love about it. There's this pure football. When across the white line, there's going to be no love between these two teams because of what happened last year, how it finished, the bite that was in it, and let some more have unfinished business. That's why. But I say +3, you're +6, so you're really pushing it out.
something we're going to do actually this week as well as the prediction, Sean. It's not the man of the match, but it's the
Oh,
play. It's a player to watch. When it
yeah.
comes to Uachtar and Claregalway, who's a player to watch for you in this one?
Oh, Jesus. Uchterard, Keen Monaghan.
Keane Monaghan's your man. Yeah, I think after the weekend there, I think getting Eric Lee
Yeah.
back to full fitness. Imagine he starts as well after getting two, setting up the goal. He's the one for there for me to watch out for. When it comes to Leitir Móir and Dunmore-Michaels, the player I'd actually be looking at there, I mentioned him. It's Shane McGrath for Dunmore-Michaels, given the form he's in. Who's the player there, Sean, that you'd be looking at?
It's funny the guy I picked. Now we mentioned Casey, but I'd actually be going from Warren Shoiga.
Orange Shogun, yeah.
Warren Shoiga is he's the guy I'm going. He's going well. A real nice guy and so important to this. Now there's a lot of players I can mention. The reason I'm picking him, I just find he's a guy that he had a bit of an injury there. He was out for a while and he's back in full form. And if he gets a good run of this game, he's so important to them regarding pulling the strings on that half forward line. So I'm going to give it to Warren Shoiga. Yeah,
Looking so at the third preliminary quarterfinal Sunday at 4:30, Miltown James is in
yeah.
Tuam. Before the podcast, I was thinking about these games, and I just find it so hard to give a prediction on this one.
I agree with you. Like James is kind of a growing team with the players that are coming in. Like we all know
Mm.
Paul is there and they've Jack Nolan, Stephen McCorry and Brian Keane. And then you have Milltown were totally under the radar at the start. And if you ask me, I said last year and the year before, they're an aging team. They're getting slow. And then you look at the Martins and Mark Heron, and unbelievable. I think Mark Heron scored 15, Neil Martin 112, Owen Mannion 3-4, Liam, they're the team that are putting up serious scores, scoring forwards. Like it's just these new rules have absolutely been heaven sent to Miltown, and it's brilliant because I'm looking at the scores they're putting up against big good teams. Like this is not a scenario where they're playing kind of bad teams. Like they're putting up like as I said, Bedletsamore 117, Drew with Corofin. Like I mean, putting up 115. Like Drew then again with Monavea 213. So it's kind of a scenario where there might I didn't expect this. And then as you said, James is again the same way. I was thought they're a bit reliant on Paul. Paul is again doing what Paul does. I saw them in the league. They're kind of a team. James is they know their weaknesses, they know their strengths, and that's power. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're not thinking outside the box. They're keeping it simple. And by keeping it simple, St. James's, they're getting the results. Like they got beaten by Killannon, which was kind of a bit of a start. But the reason they got lost to Killannon was Kevin's lad Dara was outstanding that day, and like he won the game by himself. They bet a Barna, a weak Barna team, but then they drew it in with a McCullen team. Now again, they'll talk of McCullen, but again, this is a strong McCullen team they bet. So it's kind of a scenario where when we don't expect them to do well, they do well. And the
Mm.
same with things. So that's why we have two really, I would say, underestimated teams here. And that's not being rude to both of them. We've underestimated these two teams. And any of these two teams, whoever wins, will have a say in the championship when they go to the next round. I know big time. That's the one teams I wouldn't want to meet. If you're asking me who I expect to win, I just think that Milltown forward line and the rules are so like the game's in Tuam, right? Now that would suit
Yeah.
Milltown. That's another reason why I'm saying it. The game's in Tuam. I just think with the forwards and they're on fire, I just give it to Milltown. Now there won't be much in it, but I could see Milltown win this by two.
Yeah, the argument I'd have there when you're saying Miltown is you look at the James's defense this year, Dale Masterson from Clare has been a massive
What a
addition.
catch.
Yeah, and he could, you imagine, pick up Liam Costello, I think, at the weekend, who's been in good form. Then you look at Cathal O'Regan, maybe he's someone that goes over on Old Mannion. Jack Folan could pick up Mike Merton at the weekend. if Johnny Duane was to come back in, we haven't seen
Yeah,
him yet. They'll
yeah,
be hoping he could come back in. He could potentially pick up maybe Mike Martin or someone there. So I do think there's three or four right good man markers. The area of concern I would have for Miltown is when you look at the James's midfield in particular of Paul Conroy and Sam O'Neill, like Miltown, they've had James Kavanagh there, they'd be bringing in Cathal
yeah.
Blake, but I just think that athleticism in midfield will give Miltown a lot to think about this weekend.
Yeah, but you're correct. And this is where I'm coming from Milltown is in hindsight. Like, but if you look at what they've beaten and before, like you talk
Mm,
about man markers, we talk about these forwards like Mark Hare, Neil Martin, all these guys. But look, we let some more defense are like absolute demons. I mean, Corofin defense, Monivea defense. You know, the kind of, we're talking about the players that were there, and they've shown it's serious score. Like we're not talking one or these are three or four players. Like as I said, what do they put together? Look at like what 420 something or four big scores against good
yeah,
teams. So that's why I'm saying with the rule, the three man up defending. There's some teams it suits. Correct about the midfield regarding St James's, but I look at what their competition to date, and they don't seem to have, how would I say it, turned the screw. Like I mean, they only bet Barnet by 214-13, but that was a very weakened Barnet team, you know, kind of way like that. And again with McCullen, they drew McCullen again. That was when I just saw it, but again I could see that game happening. McCullen were already through. It was you know that kind of way like that. Now the Killanny game where they lost again, they did well, but they only put up like 17 points, which wasn't big for these guys. So I'm kind of looking at both teams now. And again, if James can lull this total out attack, but I just find that when you just like if you take down Mark Kerr, Mia Martin comes alive. And it reminds me a bit of watching of the Fossa game on the weekend there. And you could see who do they play again? I forget who they played against down in Kerry, but they had two men marking the two Cliffords, and the other lads who were free, and they did the damage because that's how it is. And I find like Miltown, you take one out, there's a guy inside, so there's a bit of that going on.
Kilcommon, wasn't it? It was
Yeah,
Kilcommon.
they're coming, correct? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a bit of Miltown in this that they're underrated, and they got these guys. These guys will score if you give them an inch. These guys will score, and I've seen that. So really,
Yeah.
that's the reason I'm backing them.
Yeah, I know the last day they had the two Godwins there, and James Kavanagh's been there, and Cathal
Yeah,
Blake has been there. So there has been a bit of change in midfield. When it comes to Milltown, you look in attack. You obviously have Jack O'Neill, Joanna
yeah.
Quilligan, Brian Kane as well. Big addition from Nace as well. This year, for them, like Milltown, there's some great man makers there as well, like Jack Curran, the obvious one
Yeah,
there.
yeah, correct. Yeah,
So
I forgot about him. Yeah,
yes,
it's just kind of a scenario where, yeah, you're kind of looking at the Jameses, the Jimmies, that are kind of scenario where a City team, what's come in, and we always look to Paul Conroy and the big 2 pointers and that the midfield. But a good management knows keep it spread, don't bunch in, don't let these guys win it. And Milton are cute. They're cute. I saw them against Corofin. I tell you, they're well drilled. They know what they're at.
yeah. Is it sort of, I was making the point last week, is it sort of hard, like as good as that draw was for Milltown against Girvan then, is it sort of hard to know where they are because that draw against Monivea had be like 12 points up and they drew it in the end. Obviously they're still unbeaten and I think that's the biggest positive they'll draw out of it.
It is, and listen, it's a bit of local rivalry, Monivea, once you know them, and it was kind of a scenario where they had won and drew. They knew they were safe. They were going to the next round. Monivea, then again, as I said, they drew, but it's kind of one of the scenario where, as you said, the players come back is they're in a good spot. You know, the kind of way, like they really should be underdogs, and you can call them. And but you look back on how they're playing, who they played against, and all this stuff, and the players, and I just keep looking at these guys who are putting up big scores from play, like in that, and that's what wins games for these Euros, scores. And if you look at a lot of teams, we're looking at one guy's put up a big score. They've got a lot of talent around that pitch, and if one guy's being man marked, the other guy will pop up, and that's what I'm saying with the boys we're talking here, Martin and Mannion and Costello. They're able to do it and putting up big scores.
Yeah, I'm going with James's by two. I just think that result against Mike Cullen, if they can really use that as a springboard in their season, because it's been a while that they've got a
Yeah,
result against one of the big four, and I think that's why they're just going to pip this one by two at the weekend. You mentioned Milltown, but how much are you going there?
I go Miltown by two.
Milltown by two there.
They seem to be tight enough with all their games. They don't seem to run away. but they know when to
Mm.
win, and that's why I'm going to give them 2+2.
Interesting looking at this. I've been writing them down as we went on. We've agreed on one and we've disagreed on the last two. So it's
We live
coming
in a
out.
great world.
Yeah, it's coming out to the last prelim. Killannon Mountbellew went up Pearse Stadium Sunday 4:45. Are Killannon favourites considering the loss to O'Finnerty?
Uh, if as a neutral, they shouldn't be favourites, right?
Yeah.
Correctly, they shouldn't be favourites. Like I think the bookies and all those will have Mountbellew favourites because why? We're talking about the McHughes, Ryan, Mannion, as I say, the Dailies, all that stuff, their history, who was in the group with them. Like in all fairness, we talk about like they lost to Salthill, they lost well, but they bet Michaels again, a weak Michaels team, and they only lost by a point to Uachtarard. We look at Killannon, and all of a sudden, an absolute master performance by Kevin's young lad Dara
Mm.
against James, but they only bet them by a point. But then on our last conversations, you've rated James's highly, and then we saw they lost to again a McCullen team. Now again, that's a serious local rivalry there, and they bet Barna again, but Barna were coming back with a few of the lads. They would have, I would have seen them not putting up big score in the league, but then again, you didn't have Brian Roach and Dara Wadge. Probably the two, if you asked me, best midfield partnership in the county at this moment in time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's
and
fair too.
we spoke about, like you spoke about Casey and all that stuff. These two young, absolutely lovely gentlemen from lovely families and no airs or graces, but absolute serious talent. Ryan Roach, we know rugby's his first love, and that's a big loss to Galway football because I know that they tried underage to bring him in. He was outstanding. He's seriously, and now with Dara, I won't say Dara was always there, but I suppose he's a year older. He's been backed. He's been injury free, and serious, an absolute lethal weapon regarding from dead balls like that. Like I think what I'm looking there, he scored 17 points from midfielder, 3 2-pointers, frees. Sorry, 4 2-pointers, 3x2, 2 by. Like that's serious to have that weaponry in your armory. And again, but then I'm going to talk about like Inda Kelly's playing absolutely brilliant for them, Ken O'Connor, and then Johnny Heaney, serious, experienced talent. So and then they've lost a few, but I just think they're under the radar here. I think Paul, and I just think I mentioned the midfield. It's so important with these new the midfield batter, but you have two that can win serious clean ball, serious engine, but they can score too. Going back to Mountbellew, again, what a player, Barry McHugh. I mean, like he's put up the scores for them, Colin Ryan. I just find that their graph is going down. And again, you don't want to be disrespectful to any team. I think they reached their peak. You hear stuff regarding struggles, regarding players and injuries and all that stuff. Like Owen Finnerty, there's question that he's injured at the moment. Now, what a loss.
Yeah.
Is he? I don't know. You might know that.
He
We
well,
know
he
he's
was yeah, he was walking up with crutches for the second half in Pearse
yeah.
Stadium up the
Now,
steps.
like if he's missing now, what a loss to this team. Like I mean,
Yeah, because
it's what a team for.
he gave Uachtarard huge problems in that
Yeah,
first half in that game, and you're really thinking with Finnerty, McHugh, Colin Ryan, now they have three forwards there that are going to cause real problems. Now, the one thing I would say with them losing Owen Finnerty is Kieran Mulhern didn't play the last day, so he could come back in, and I think he would be a big addition for Mountbellew to have back as well.
yeah, it is, but it's a strange one. We're looking at two teams like with Killannon, like I think they were averaging there. I think they were the lowest scorers in the league. I think they were only averaging like 12 to 14 points, but they still recovering what happened there. But I just think there's a lot of players missing from them, like good players, injuries. Roach to talk about, Dar was just there, kind of coming through. Johnny Heaney. So you can see now where they're clicking better. Speaking to them there, like when they lost to McCullen, very disappointed, but that was a serious, strong McCullen team up for a local derby. And then by beating Barn again, who are stronger than they were at stop. And James is, as we spoke earlier. But I just think, and I suppose we're talking about with the Claregalway, there's a big win in this Killannon. They're going into this game underdogs. I think we can say that they wouldn't be favourites, but they would be my favourites. Because I just think this game suits them. It's in the stadium again, don't forget. We're taking
Yeah.
Mountbellew out of the back door of Tuam. It'll suit Killannon, and Pearse Stadium to the teams in the West is worth about 2 or 3 points. We keep forgetting that. We love the wind, like, you know.
He mastered it.
We're
Yeah,
no master, but we're used to it.
Colin Mannion, I think, will tag Johnny Heaney, and I think you have to tag Johnny Heaney
Oh,
with what
Johnny
he's
Heaney.
scoring, particularly at centre back. I think he needs to be tagged. Then, I think the battle around midfield, as we mentioned there, Sean Kelly's been there, Mulhern's been there, so it'll be interesting to see what Mountbellew do there. Um, could we possibly maybe see John Daly out there, considering the influence that Walsh and Roach have on this team? Because I definitely think they're two players. You need to get two of those
You're
matchups
talking about
right.
spoiling them, Paul. It's not a scenario where you're
Yeah,
trying to overlord them. You're not going to overlord them. Now I know
yeah,
that like they didn't play so well the last day they were saying against Mountbellew, but you won't overlord these two because, and I just think as it goes on, again the weather, Pierce Stadium will suit them. These two will have a field day, and if you give these guys an inches, and I'm not like they're serious talent, and we still haven't seen them at their peak. I think they're only still at 70%. There's more in them. And I just think they're probably the confidence just needs to build, and that's it. Very serious talent.
yeah. I think Rory Green too. We've seen him the last day for Killannon. He been a really consistent performer. Then he was
Yep.
away for a year or two. But if I was on that Killannon team, I'd have him back in, and I'd have him back in on Barry McHugh,
Yeah.
because I think he has huge experience there, and I think it's a matchup that they just have to get right in this one. I think if they
Yeah.
don't get this one right, they'll lose.
Yeah. And Kevin Eanes on the sideline. We can forget that.
Yeah,
He's what is he a coach? I think that's it. Like serious experience there, reading games, the whole and that. So it's another advantage for him there. And he'd be up for this match now himself, like in huge amount of experience for the last couple of years and down in Cork. And it's great that he's sharing all that now with his own home club again. Like so that's the thing about it. Again, Montbellew should be the favourites, but they won't be my favourites. So I go Killannon, if everything goes well, +3.
yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. I'm gonna go Killannon by
Yeah,
three as
I
well.
didn't see that coming.
Um, I think Killannon too. Just think Finnerty's massive losses as we talk
Oh,
about.
huge. And listen, whatever the injury is, I hope it's a quick recovery because serious talent and Galway need people like Perry that and Mountbellew. Good to see him back again. Hoping it's not too serious.
So John, your player to watch in Killannon and Mountbellew?
I'm going to go for Darren Walsh. I know we mentioned him. No, well, Darren, I love to put the two, but if I, oh, jeepers. I'm going to go with Dara because I suppose it's like Ryan Roach is outstanding, but with Dara, with what he has with the freeze, the 2 point abilities, and his fielding around the middle, I'm going to go with Dara Walsh.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. With that too, Darrell Walsh, the scores he's put up. It
Yeah.
comes to Miltown and James's. I think it's Sam O'Neill's the player to watch for me
Yeah.
here. He got game time with Galway, and it probably expect him now to have a really, really impressive campaign with James's. Impressive performance to start with. Who's your player to watch in Miltown and James's?
Sorry, Miltown and James's. I got it because I was a selector. How I say it, I love Michael Martin because we doubt him, his age, and I know they love him down in Cortoon still, but but don't mention the war. But I just think, listen, when you're putting up those serious scores for his, he's not a huge physical player, but what a talent! And year after year, now I know I should be picking some young player, but I just think we have to give the senior players a mention here too. And I
Yeah.
just think it's great. Like Mia Martin, I just think it's just outstanding. Like whatever he's taking and eating, it's working. So I'm going Mia Martin. Regarding James's, you know what I mean? Paul Conroy, we know that I go with Jack Nolan. Like, he's going well for them there, so I'll go Jack Nolan.
Coming to the senior relegation
Yes.
semi-finals at the weekend. This is one I didn't want to have to be talking about, which involves my own club, Down this weekend, coming up against Michael Saturday, 5 o'clock at Tuam Stadium. I've been getting a few texts this week asking how I was feeling ahead of this one, and to be honest, if you're in the knockout stages of the championship, you'd be excited to be the words. You'd be looking forward to it, but not looking forward to this one. To be honest, at the weekend, I think we're and Down have scored a combined total of 212 in their last two games. They're just not scoring enough, and I think playing Michaels is a dangerous one too because they're even going like teams are motivated going into this relegation games, but particularly a team that's just come up from intermediate. Like you can imagine the motivation of not wanting to be that yo-yo team this weekend.
100% correct. Like, and I suppose we're going back to how, like, we look at that down and what has happened, like, to date, like, and just so Damon Comer's his influence on this team, and it's we no, you never think one player would have such an influence on the team, but we're seeing it now, and it's such a pity. And I agree with you, Star. Like, I mean, like, lost heavily to Dunmore, lost to Claregalway, and they're not scoring. They're just not scoring. Lost to the start. Now again, it was a group of death, and in all fairness, it wasn't an easy group to get scores. When you look at Michael's, where you know what I mean, like, I mean, lost to, like, we have teams here that lost every game. Usually the other teams we look up to now had won one game or the last one. All teams have lost and not putting up big scores, like Michael's 2-10 against Oughterard, scored only 11 against Mountbellew, 10 against Salthill. So you have two teams that are finding it hard to get scores. And it's kind of one you're looking at, and I agree with you. You have a team like Anna Down, you could see the graph is going down. Like, again, Frankie Burke, like, still reliant on poor Frankie, still trying to score. Like, I think he's 11 with 8 of those frees. There's no score. Do you remember there's a Kilcummins 1-3? They're not getting scores. But then you looked in at Michael's, like, you see Gary Higgins there at 9, Owen Kearns 2-2, Brian Hull at 7, Aina Coffey at 3. They have more scoring possibilities. Now the game is in Tuam. Michaels won't like that down there because that's kind of an away pitch for them. But
But
I
it's where
agree
they
with,
won. It's where they won the intermediate championship last year.
yeah, well, because we had no choice. We had, like, same as my own club, we had to go down there, and it was lucky for us. But it's kind of a scenario. I agree with you that, like, they were leaking scores, Michaels, but they kind of tidied up a bit against, like, only 11-14 against Salthill, and that would have been a local derby, and they would have been up for that match. And I agree with you. If I'm a betting man, and I'm not, but based on what I'm seeing and the stats, you'd have to go for Michaels. And I know you, it's your own club. I just think Michaels, with what happened last year and what happened to you last year, they'd had that little, not much, but I don't see any X factor for Anna Down where you can say, now you might know in the inside, is there anybody come back? Is Damo going to come down at half time? Nothing. And we know he's not, and his injury, and it just shows you such a loss.
Yeah, from what I heard, so far, I don't think Damien will be back this weekend, which is another loss. And Stephen Curley too has been sidelined with a knee injury that he picked up in the first game. He won't be back either. So they're significant losses. But funnily enough, in this one, I think a lot comes down to who picks up Frankie, and a lot comes down to who picks up Gary Higgins.
Well, that's it, like, you know what I mean? But then again, you're looking at them, like, Frankie scored 11, 8 free, so it's only 3 from play out of 3 games. And then Gary Higgins has scored 9. Oh, looking there, what is it there? Like, the 3 2-pointer frees, 145 and 2. So there are a lot of these are dead balls. The other kind of way, it's more looking at the likes of Diarmuid Kilcummins for ye and the likes of Owen Kearns who scored 2. You know what I mean? They're the guys who you expect to score,
Oh,
but
Reddington, yeah.
they're not lighting up the place in that kind of scenario. So it's kind of a thing where, and you know this as well as I do, they're going to be as cagey. There's going to be more defensive thought going into this game than all out attack. And that's the worst thing regarding relegation. Your first line of attack is actually defense. You're going to be trying to put everybody back, doing a bit of a Donegal on to try and get them on the break. And that's why you can see they're not getting scores. That's why if we're looking at, I'm looking here, most of Michael's scores are frees. Most of your scores are frees because more defensive, trying to get a team on the break. And it's not going to be pretty. And it's going to come down to, again, who can do the least mistakes, meaning least frees. And that's why I think regarding, on paper, probably Michael to have a more kind of, probably fitter, more balanced team. And I don't want to put this guy down. It's just, I find that they seem to be in a rut at the moment. And you probably know the feeling on the ground. And it's an awful thing. Winning's a habit and losing's a bad habit. And trust me, I'm from Charua, where, like, I was kind of laughing there. You were saying you have a bad feeling of this relegation. Welcome to Carrow supporter. We've been doing it for 3-4 years, like, you know, so we're the masters of it. So it's kind of it's a bad place and it's a bad rut to get in. If you have young lads coming through, they're kind of, you know, the kind of way they haven't been in this situation before, and this, and I think Michael's had that, and I've seen them. They're a young team, strong team, good underage, and that's the reason, like, you know.
Yeah, I think a big thing for Annadown is who can they get back on the pitch. Diarmuid didn't play the last game, but I think he'll be okay this weekend, hopefully. Domhnaill Commons, he's out injured as well. Ethan Ford, who would have been in Galway minor, He's out injured as well, so there is 3 or 4 injuries there that Norman O'Brien has to deal with. I think the big positive from the club perspective is they were unlucky in the 19s. They missed out on getting to North A
Yeah.
semi-final. But Norman O'Brien, the senior manager, was overseeing the 19s as well. So I think that's a big positive for
Plus,
the club. And they've had 4 or 5 19s playing senior this year too. So they are positives in considering what's been a disappointing year so far. But I'm just pipping Anna down to win this by one.
you
Um,
have to. You have to.
I,
But I'll go against you. I'm the same way. I'm going Michaels by one. And again, I can see this going to extra time.
Yeah, hopefully
And
not.
it's
It'd
strange
be
because,
great to
yeah,
have it wrapped up by half 6.
yeah, like that's what I mean. So it's one of those games. It's so much to lose, and nerves and players, and as we talked about the likes of the Frankie Burks and those. But this is where I'm coming from. So I'm going Michaels plus one. That's it. But I could see this also going to extra time.
Who's your player to watch here?
You want to say Frankie, but um, probably Diarmuid Kilcummin's really for me for Anna Down. But then from Michaels, then I just like you're looking there. Owen Curran's going well for them. There were the goals and Brian Harrow. So I'll probably go with Owen Curran. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been good. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Frankie, um, to see us over the line in this one.
Wouldn't be the first
Hope,
time. A
hopefully,
lot of
Jan.
bad memories of your Frankie putting a lot of teams to the sword, and the only my worry about poor Frankie, it's going to have to not happen someday, and like that's what's is it this weekend, like
Yeah, he's definitely a player anyways that
Oh,
owes Anna
and
down
again,
lots
we're
of.
talked about he's got nothing. As I say, he owes nothing to your club because what a warrior for the years and still going strong. He's not finished yet. It's good to hear that and see it.
Looking at the other senior
Yeah,
relegation semi-final before we look at the intermediate championship, Barna, Monavea Abbey. Barna come into this one on the back of being competitive against Killannon in that game, just coming up short. And Monavea Abbey, I don't know, did you see the interview with Bunt after the game, but you could tell even by talking to him, he said he was embarrassed after the Curfing game, and then you could tell he was proud and he seen something in Monavea Abbey that day against Miltown.
yeah, like that's the one what Ollie Turner was doing to me. And
Yeah,
listen, Bunt calls it as it is, and that's what you love about Bunt. Like I mean, he calls it is. He ain't going to give you as I said, the answer you don't want to hear. He calls a spade, and that's why he's there. And he's done great things with this Monterey team over the years. Again, they got an absolute drudging against a strong Corofin team. Like it was a 420-10. Now this happens. You know what I mean? If you give Corofin an inch, they will take a mile, and that's the problem. Now they lost to Leitir Móir too by 3, and I suppose I saw that game in the stadium. Again, they were never far away. Just they didn't have enough to win it. Now it wasn't at full strength, and then they drew with Miltown. So that was a huge result against Miltown. Huge result. Now their curve is going away. We look at Barna. They lost all their games, and they're leaking big scores like 121, 214, 115. But again, against I wouldn't say strong opposition, but a lot of their team was traveling over in the States. They never had a full panel. Like we know Sean Dunn's going brilliant for them. Tom Curran is going very well for them. But then we look at Monavea, like is it Glenn Kelly, 21 points to scratch.
yeah.
Like what a big reply between frees and 2-pointers and 45s. It's a strange one because Barna full strength are a serious outfit. They're very, very regimental. They know what they have to do. They can kind of drag a team down to their level. And they have some great players, as we said. We're talking about Sean Dunn very well underage, stuff like that, and Keane Hernan. Seriously, Then you look at Monavea, then with Glenn Kelly and Leo, and like we haven't seen Killeen yet, Killeen McDade, in his full throttle. You know
Yeah,
that?
now there was patches of it against Milltown where he really had an effect on the game, and it was something Milltown struggled with.
And that's it. But we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him, which we've seen him in Crow Park. If he gets a full throttle of 60 minutes or even 40 minutes, he will do damage. And I think this is where I'm coming from. I think this is the game. This game is down in Headford, nice big pitch. I think this game is where Killeen will actually enjoy it more. Kind of in a scenario, the pressure's off. Again, Bunty will go. And I just think, based on what I'm seeing, and Barna are good, but they're kind of a scenario where they're kind of, how would I say it? They've lost all their games. The opposition, like McCullen, like they're not scoring like 8, 13, and 14. Now I know they haven't got the full panel. But again, this has maybe come a bit too early for them. Like I don't see them getting relegated, but I could just see Monterey with the experience and as you said there, the last year or two, I could just see Monterey beating them by maybe by +3.
Monavea by +3. I've actually gone for Monavea Abbey there, +2. I think, as we mentioned, Glenn Kelly, even Young Moore in the last day for them, two really impressive
Yeah.
with scores. Trevor Mullins and Killian McDade out around the middle, too. But I think there's a high chance you're going to see either Sean Fitzgerald or Keane Hernan picking up
Oh,
McDade. Now, in fairness, I don't know will they want Hernan to mark McDade because they'll lose a lot
you
if they
see,
put
this is
Hernan
what you're
on.
doing. You know how important Killian is, and you can null him in that scenario. But you just lost your very important ace as well. And it's not like a scenario where Corofin and these guys they can afford to that because they have other players that can actually do it. So they kind of forward like so. Fitzy again, he's playing kind of more kind of a half forward role, kind of that a half back role there. So it's kind of there with Hernan coming back as well, and but it's that's what I'm seeing is they're a good team, Barron, but we haven't seen any of it this year. Zero, and they haven't got everyone on the pitch at the same time playing to that level. So based on that, and I just think the Killian McDade factor, if we see him in full flight, you know what I mean, he can do serious damage. Like, and Glenn Kelly's had an outstanding season as well. Like, so I just as I said, I say just Monterey would be +3. No, again, I don't see Barna going down. I think they'll be still a bit too strong. This game will actually bring them on another game, but I just don't see them actually getting, as I say, losing this one.
You said you don't see Bernard going down. You said you see Anna down and losing the other semi-final. Would I be inclined to think you see Anna down going down to intermediate football?
Based on what's happening to date,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's fair.
And again, listen, I find no satisfaction in this in any way because and listen, as I said, my own club in Carua went through serious bad times, and for such, I know every club is proud, and especially where you base yourself, you have a lot of noisy neighbours around you, and it's simple as that. And it'd been such a great team and great supporters, and it's hard. And you'll hear the words, sometimes you need to go down to come up. And I don't believe that at all. I just, that's, it's, when you go down there, there's nothing easy because there's other teams down there. And it's just, again, the importance of the players you've lost. And again, sometimes players moving on and not committing and all that stuff. And it's hard. It is hard. And such a proud and such a historic team like Anna Down. It's sad because you have a lot of noisy neighbours around you. And again, population and like Claregalway and where they're staying and coming and all this, it's not easy. So you asked the question there. I thought you wouldn't have picked up on it, but you did very quickly. Yeah, yeah. Because I see Barna improving after this game. If they do win and if Monterey lose, I could see them, and that's based on that. And I find no enjoyment in it. I'm only basing on my kind of theories and looking at the stats and the history and what's happened to moment, like but yeah, that's to give you a short answer.
Yeah, well,
Unfortunately,
Sean, I've never hoped you've been wrong about
well,
something so much
yeah,
in
yeah,
your
yeah.
life. So hopefully it's that. Just before we look at the intermediate championship, I'm with Sean. I expect Monavea to win this one, Monavea Abbey to win this one by 2, and Glenn Kelly's my player to watch here. I just think the
Yeah,
2 point threat and
yeah.
everything. Is he the player for you to watch too?
Sean Dunn, Sean
Sean
Dunn,
Don Bernard, yeah,
good player.
he's been impressive too, and could be potentially maybe close to Galway call up considering his
Yeah, and
performances.
but we need him, and they're the players I want to see getting a bit of game time. These young players, and I think he's well able. I've seen a lot of him this year. I think he has a talent, and he just needs to probably just be backed and given a chance, but not one chance, given a few chances because we just can't put a player in there, and if he does have a good game, back lose him again. We need to keep them there and give them chances.
So if we look at the Intermediate Football Championship, Saturday 3:15 in Pearse Stadium, Caltra, Micheál Brannocks. Sean, hard to believe now, come 5 o'clock Saturday evening, Caltra or Brannocks are out of the championship.
Yeah, but I suppose the reason they're out is would have been the first game because that was a problem. Like we look at Caltra, they lost to Kilkerran Clonbur, and Mia
Mm.
Branos lost to St. Brendan's, and that was
Yeah.
it. And they kind of and well, even look at Cortoom, but the problem with Mia Branos, they were losing some serious players in that first game. Like Clino O'Carrin was still in the state, Mike McGarrett, and all these guys. So they were losing some serious forward players. And then Calter, as you said, we're looking at them like with Naughton and Sean Kane, these guys. And it's sad because, yeah, but it's not the end of the road for these two teams. There are two young teams coming to, well, Meal Browns will have a few players, but they're two young teams. This isn't the end of the road. And whoever wins this game will have a serious say in promotion to senior ranks, either side, because we both had these teams up in the high power ranking. It's a pity they had to meet. Like, we look at Meal Browns, like, I mean, lost the first game there, betting a strong Oranmore team, hammered a strong Oranmore team, drew them with Cartoon. But then you got the likes of Clifden came back and only 2 games scoring 8 points. Mike McGarrett's playing outstanding. Liam Dunmore, Ronan Dunmore, like that. The game has been, I think, is it down in Duggan Park?
No, this Culture Browns game, it's in the stadium.
Oh,
It's
Pierce Stadium. Correct. Sorry, Pierce
yeah,
Stadium.
yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at the game there. And then, like, Culture, we've seen them over the last couple of years. Like, Sean Kane playing outstanding. Alan Naughton, outstanding. Murray putting up big scores. Conor O'Neill getting 2 goals. So it's one of those games I'm looking at, and it's strange. You're kind of saying, yeah, they're going to win it. And then you can look, oh no, these are going to do it. Both teams are so strong, but again, with the rules. And I know one of the coaches on the Meal Browns, and he's a very, very smart, shrewd tactician, coach. And based on that alone, I know he will know what's boot these players from Caltra tie first, how they play, the tactics, the whole idea. The Meal Browns team will go in there very knowledgeable on this. And that's what was to see when they played Oranmore and what they did against Cartoon. And based on what Killeen, a very talented Killeen O'Curran, very talented player, and Mike, grown up together, went to school together, went to college together, and, well, actually, no, one went to Galway, went to Limerick. And when they come together, it reminds me a bit of the terrible twins, you know, that kind of way, Frankie Stockwell and Sean Purcell. When they click, they're very, very good and really unmarkable. So based on what I'm seeing and being in the stadium as well, as we said, I see Meal Browns win this by 3.
Yeah. I think one man Culture could struggle with is Fintan and Curran this
Well,
weekend.
Fintan is just doing, like, Fintan isn't lighting the world on fire, being like, we're talking about Dara Walsh and bit, but he's such an important guy there. He's a leader in the middle. He dictates what's going on. He wins the ball. He's so, like, Fintan's such a gentleman. He's a quiet guy. I managed him years ago, and Fintan was there now a good few years ago. And he's such important, these guys, and he's matured in the scenario where he's a leader on that pitch, but he leads by vocal and leadership on the pitch. He can read the game. He's so intelligent reading the game. And I agree with you 100%. And you've got Tommy then, who would be Tommy Kennedy there in midfield. Very, very 2 big men, where these new rules with the high kick out has suited them. Where before with the short kick out, as they call them, my union, anyone over the 6'5" union, we were obsolete the last couple of years, kick out. We now rule the roost around the middle again. And the guys were mentioning it. If you can win the midfield battle, I think the Browns will win it based on that.
Yeah. I think they probably need Killian Curran to like really hit the heights. He probably
Yeah.
hasn't hit it yet. He was well
He has,
measured.
though. He did the last game. He did well. Like, he was over in the States, did well there. Of course, he went traveling then and came back a bit rusty, but trust me, we're going to hear a lot about him on this game on the weekend.
You're sort of convincing me, but then I'm thinking have Brannocks the men to tie up Alan Naughton, Sean Kane, Mikey Mulryan. Like there's 3 forwards there. Oran Lochry's done well in goals. Luke Burke even, I'm thinking he's a man who could maybe go over on Killian.
But
And
it's a shootout. You see, and you're correct.
yeah,
Like, I mean, Alan Naughton, this is the shoot, and this is where I'm coming from. You're correct, and do they have, that would probably be the Meal Browns' weakest thing, where they are letting in scores, like, but they have a serious firepower now. And
yeah,
and we keep going back to, sometimes we forget about the rules. These new rules suit shooters, shoot forwards, 2-pointers guys. And like Mike McGarrett can suit them. Killeen O'Curran, an absolute. If he's, again, a guy I always say never got a fair swipe of the whip off Padraic, like unbelievable in the FBDs. And then, of course, we've forgotten then in the championship and league. And I just think if you back this guy, give him a few games, leave him on the pitch, you will get the rewards. And I just think he's looking at this year regarding this championship, and I think he'd do there. Like, and again, I'm going back to himself and Mike. You might keep one quiet to maybe, when I say quiet, 3 or 4 points. That's it. But they will score. Yeah. But again, you're talking Alan Naughton, who was missing on the first game for Caltra. And what a talent, what a forward. And I agree, I don't think you're going to keep him. He's going to score 7, 8 points anyway. That's going to happen, you know?
I get the way you're talking about Killian. He's the player to watch for you this weekend when it comes to.
I would. I think he's just he was missing the first game. He's it was kind of I saw him there from the last day. He was at the Carrow Spittle game, and he's got a smile on him. He's confident. He's the America did him well. He got away from as I say, got away from the village, enjoyed himself, came back. Like it's not easy overpaying over in America, 13 aside as a forward, the Heat. You know what I mean? He's back now, and I just think he's just willing to go for the juggler. And I think he would be my man to match Killian. And again, just I mean, Alan Acton from Cantor, like I mean, just there's no what more do you have to say? Like, such a talent.
Yeah, I think he's the player to watch.
Oh, big time, big time.
Just when it comes for me, I don't think Brannock will have enough to quieten all of the Culture forwards. It's why I'm going for Culture by one. You're going for Brannock by how much there?
I'm actually only going by one. It'll be tight enough.
By
Yeah,
one, yeah. Yeah, this is the closest intermediate
yeah.
game
Now
I
again,
think.
this could go to extra time as well. Trust me
Yeah,
on that one.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Looking then Sunday half one, Courtney Shamrocks, Menlaw. Courtney Shamrocks, you look at it, got that draw with Brannocks, but big positive to get Adrian Bailey back on the pitch
Yeah.
for them. Uh, Menlaw, big win against Clifden, narrow defeat to Kilkerran, and then took a heavy enough defeat to Caltra. But they are still here in the preliminary quarterfinal. They've had some big performances, so don't see them being too much in this one either.
Yeah, you kind of look at them, they wouldn't have been kind of, as I said, you wouldn't have them in this area. If these were in the relegation, you'd be kind of saying you could understand it, the kind of way.
Mm.
But then all of a sudden, as I said, big win for Cortoon and start beating a very fancied Oranmore team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of in the scenario, like they won it by a point again, putting 2-10. Lost to a very strong Brendan's team. We know why then again, but then again, put up a big score, like only lost by a point, like scoring 18 points, like so a big win there. Drew with the Mia Browse team. So they're coming in like Luke Dempsey's playing well, Alex Fitzpatrick's playing well, Kyle Gilmore, and as you mentioned, Barley coming in there as well. So then you look at the Minlough team, they're kind of like the Carty players are doing well, Liam and Neil. Look at there as well, like, Hansbury, Robert Hughes. It's just based on what I'm seeing. And again, I always go with the opposition where Minlough, they won against Clifden, and I know that Clifden wasn't strong at the time. They lost to Kilcar and Clonbur and lost to Caltra, but a Caltra team that had Alan Acton back. So that was the difference there, which was that was the difference. Based on what I'm seeing, I could see Cartoon winning this again, and I could see them winning by probably 2 or 3 points in this one, just based on the opposition to date and the players we were talking about and that scenario. So again, probably both teams would be happy to survive the intermediate not being in a relegation this year. That's what I would have looked at these two teams. And based on that, Minlough would just like to be happy. So a game of Cartoon. So I go Cartoon +2.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Courtoon, it's the scoring options. Like you look up top, Adrian Fairley, as we mentioned, back Colin Mulryan, Joey Donlan, Luke Dempsey. Like there's three or four, and I just think they probably have more of a spread of scores in attack when it comes to Menlough. So I'm gonna go for Courtoon by three, and I think even he got a goal the last day, Adrian Fairley, and he's
Yeah.
probably beginning to come right. He's the player to watch for me here. Who would you be looking at?
Probably from Cartoon, you're looking probably. I like Alex Fitzpatrick. I think he's a good player, one to look out for. Also then probably either the Carties, probably lean or line, both one. But I'll probably look at probably Jason Fahey Hansbury probably for that one for Munla.
Coming then to Kilconnelly, Cashran, 2:45 on Sunday. This is an interesting one because they're close in proximity, but even from chatting to one or two of the Kilconnelly lads, it isn't really a derby. It'll be classed as a derby, and they're nearly on top of each other in one sense, but they wouldn't have a huge sort of rivalry. It's an interesting one. You've obviously seen Kilconnelly up close throughout the group. They were fairly impressive when they played Year Boys that day in a group. For Castran, it's worrying, I suppose. Like you look at the 17 17 point to 8 point
Jeez.
defeat against Lillenarin, and that was a game where people expected them to react after the defeat to Kerfin's second team, and it was one where I went for Lillenarin that day. I think for Strand though there has to be some sort of reaction. Like this is a team that has come down from senior now in a preliminary quarter final at the intermediate championship.
Yeah, but there's a lot to this game. I'll start with Strand. They had a rotten season last year, like getting relegated, and it's a strange one because you'll hear the talk of the bounce back and all this stuff, and there's a reason you get relegated, and it's not because one game; it's over a lot of games, and it's an awful kind of a scenario where, and again, I was talking experience regarding a scenario where from seeing what our own club and it's the frailties are there. And you can see them when like they bet a St. Gabriel's, who we know are very not. We'll talk about them later. Lost to Corfin B again missing, and then lost to Oran. Now, the loss to Oran was a hammering, but I
Yeah.
think people are forgetting this is not the Oran team who was in the league. This is a different Oran team. Stephen Joyce back then, a lot of players, Diego back and these guys, they're a different team, a very good attacking team. And McCurran the boys. So I look at that. Now, Shane Graney's going well for Carl Strand, scored, putting up the scores for them. Ronan Connaughty, Stephen Graney is going well. But then you look at Kilcolly, and I've seen Kilcolly in the league and I saw them in championship. They're kind of a team with confidence. Like they lost to Spittle in the group stage. Now, again, this was an underrated Spittle team. William O'Connell, the lies and all that. They're going well. They're going well. And I think I had Kilcolly favourites for this game anyway. And I think Spittle came under the radar. They played us an absolute hammering, and that's the best way to game. Now, again, we were very, very naive, and that's a nice word I'm going to use, and I could go really more into the dictionary about other words, but I'm not so naive. The way we were set up, the team, and all that stuff. And again, the less said, the better, probably on that scenario. They played a Glenamatta team who isn't really a good, strong Glenamatta team, and they kind of did hard work on it too. But I think with Paul Mannion, like they've class act, Mark Doniger, Daly, Prendergast, they have scores. They are strong. They have a strong sideline, and that's why I had them up there. They were if I'm not mistaken, I think they were my dark horse. They were a team I see promotion. They're very strong up spine. They're a physical team. They like running the ball. They like driving it in. Now they're not unbeatable. They do have weaknesses, and I could see that, but they know their strengths and they do drive that home. And when they do get, I will say, a bit of a gap, they can run it home. I think the Spittle game was probably the best thing that ever happened to them, because I think they would have gone in cocky into the Spittle game. They were lucky to play us second, because then they kind of just got they got load of confidence, maybe too much confidence, and Glenamatta was enough, because that was the game they knew they had to win to be guaranteed. Based on what I'm seeing in the Carl Strand, I could see Kilcolly win this by +4, +5.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Kilconley by 5. Strand 8 points in the last game. I think, yeah, look at from a Kilconley perspective, if they can shut down Ronan Keneally here and Shane Graney, that's where Strand will struggle. Alan Morris is a big loss for them. He hasn't featured yet, so I wouldn't imagine that he'd be thrown in this weekend in a preliminary quarter final. And as you mentioned there, Kilconley, they got the win against Glenamaddie, they got the win against yourselves. That's 2 out of 3 wins. I think they're in a fairly good place, but as I said, I would expect a reaction from Strand, but I just don't think it'll be enough. I think Kilconley will have too much in this one. The player I'm going to watch for here, I think for Strand, they'll probably more than likely put Johnny McGrath over on Paul Mannion, and I think he'll be able to do a good job nullifying him somewhat. But then I think it's a player like David Prendergast here that could really make hay. Now,
Yeah.
Richard McGrath or someone else could go over and try and limit him, but I just think a lot of the focus probably will go into Mannion, and he's a player that could thrive here. Who would you be looking at here having a
Like,
big
I
game?
know the players, and I'm going to throw out, and he kind of impressed me a lot. Like, I thought Neil Daly was good for Kilconley too.
No,
Like
ideally,
Prendergast
yeah.
yeah. So he's just kind of one. He has it all in his locker. So I'm putting him out there now. Like, we should be picking Mannion and we should be picking Pendergast, but I like to give a bit of a dark horse, like a call out, because we do pick the kind of the usual suspects. So I like Niall Daly. He impressed me when I saw him twice this year. Regarding Carlos Strand, like Shane Graney's, like he's a serious footballer. Like Ronan Keneally is another great footballer. I mean, like that. Again, it's hard. What I look at Carlos Strand was they had to stop the rut, and by beating Gabriel's, probably the team they want, every team wanted to play at the time, that the job was done. We were safe for a year, and I think that's it. It's kind of it's a rebuild, reset, and this is just kind of a free throw of a dice. Where Kilconnelly are going into this where promotion. I think Carl yes, I'm not saying they wanted to lose or anything, like that, but I think this is kind of just we're safe for the year. That's the most important thing. Kilconny know this is where they need to go at the next level, and they would have been expected to top this group instead of Spittle, so they know they have to work harder.
The final preliminary quarter final before we look at the relegation and intermediate. Curfin, Glenamaddy, 3:15 Sunday in Duggan Park, along with Corsin and Menlo as a double header on Sunday. Glenamaddy's performance against Kilconnelly was an improvement, but I find it very hard to see how Curfin's second team lose this one this weekend.
I've seen Glenamaddy, and again against us, and again it's not a marker. They did the simple things right, and they bet us again. We had our opportunities to beat them, and we didn't take it. And you always look at the other day, the better team won on the day on that one. They got a good rubbing against a good Spittle team again that was underrated, and then Kilconnelly again, thereabouts. They're they're limited regarding their panel, and I think we know that. And it's just, and again, this is these small parishes, and that's it. We look at Corfin B, and this is the problem. B, this is who do they have? We don't know. I looked there, saw their junior B team have got up. They won that. They got to junior A now, and it's
Oh,
just
they're playing on and down in the Junior B county final this weekend.
to
They're
go
not
up. Oh,
gone there
sorry,
yet.
apologies,
They're not
apologies.
gone there yet.
Yeah, but again, you look at the team and the talent where is what's there. Like I mean, like Killeen Joyce for Corfin and Barry Donovan and Conor Duell like that. But like Glenamaddy have some great players too. Like Ryan Duffy's going well for them as well, and Michael Heaney. It's funny with the Corfin B. It's strange. You just don't know what's going to show up. You know the kind of way and the talent what they have and what's going on. I do expect them to win this game, which is a strange one. But they could have been in a relegation as well, just as easy. Kind of like in all fairness, they drew with a good Illinois team and they thought they were flying it. And then they bet it again at Carstrand. But then, and like they've won all, they kind of, much they've been positive all the games. Where you look at it, Glenamaddy have only won one, which was against us. So based on to date and what they have, I expect Corfin to win this by +6,
Plus
which is a
six.
big score. Yeah.
Yeah, you're strong there. Like, yeah, you're looking at it obviously from the Curfin and B perspective. Oran Burke has been in a Galway senior football panel. Ross Mahon, who's seen game time for the Curfin seniors in the past. Conor Brady as well. Ronan Steed, Barry O'Donovan, Conor Newell, like Tony Gill. They're all players who've seen game time for the
Oh,
Curfin seniors. And then you throw in Owen Brady,
yeah.
Cormac Graney, Aaron Looney, Shane Cadavid, Darren O'Reilly, Colin Kelly and Finn McIntyre have showed well. Killian Joyce, who's been paired to Galway, underage panels. Like it's
But they
there.
get Ronan Steed, like,
Yeah, yeah,
serious, like, I mean,
yeah,
like, the experience there, like,
yeah. Now the one thing I would say for Glenamaddy, they were able to get Conor Raftery and
yeah.
McDara Garrity back into it the last day, and I think with them two back, they're different. But I just think going on form, you would have to go with Curve B. I'd be
Like,
going with them by three.
and the reason I'm going +6, which is a big score, like I'm looking at Glenmady, they're not putting up big scores. Like
Yeah,
look again, like against us, like the 2-9, 6 against Spittle, 1-11 to Kilcott. They're not putting, and that's where I'm seeing where you can see where the likes of Corfin, if they get the goals and they are deadly for that scenario, you could see them doing like I mean, like 122 against Gabriel's, like 17 against Carl Strand and 114 against Iron. They're putting up scores, and if they get a run at you, and this game's in Duggan, this is the one in Duggan Park, I think, isn't it?
yeah, Duggan Park
Yeah.
Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it'll be interesting, but I just see that. That's why I'm putting Sussex. I think they can get goals, and if they get goals, they'll do damage.
Interestingly, who's your player to watch here?
For Corfin, I like Finn McIntyre. I think what I mean. He's a good lad. And then regarding Glenamaddy, you're probably talking about probably Michael Hennigan, Ryan Duffy. Really, he's going well for them too with the phrase of that. So and listen, so Finn McIntyre for Corfin and Ryan Duffy for Glenamaddy.
Yeah, probably for me here, it's Barry O'Donovan, considering he scored 6 points the last day
Yeah,
against Gabriel's, and he's been a mainstay in this Curvin second team over the last few years as well. Coming to the relegation semi-finals then in intermediate.
Right.
Sunday at 1 o'clock on Garua and Gabriel's in the Prairie. You were just telling me before we came on, you're feeling really confident. There's no way you can see on Garua losing this game.
Well, now you're lying because you're smiling. Listen, and this is from experience, and you're in the same boat yourself. We're a team that's not going with a lot of confidence. It's kind of a scenario where, like, Gabriel's will be in the same boat as us, and it's kind of a game where Gabriel's will be saying, "I'm glad we got Carrow," and Carrow, for a team, is kind of disappointing that won the Junior All Ireland. You would have expected to kick on, and very rare to see a team that won an All Ireland to be in a relegation. I could write a book now where the faults are and stuff like that, but I don't think you have enough time for this podcast. It's one of those things. I just hope that the team clicks, that they better probably structure stuff like that. Gabriel's would be seen as probably the weakest team in this intermediate, being what's going on. We also hear that they've a few players back, few of the hurlers, like this. Like, you look at their scores, Gabriel's now, like, I mean, they've been leaking big scores like 218 against Carstrand, 420 against Oran, is it 122 against, like, there's heavy defeats, and they're not putting up scores that they're only averaging is at 10 points per game. But then you look at us, like, we're not scoring either. Like we lost to Glenamaddy, Lescalconnie. Now we'll look at the game against Spittle where we scored 313, but I know, I'm honest, that was Spittle's second team, really took out 2 or 3 players. So it wasn't a great performance by us, that we'd be going into this game saying, yeah, we're full of confidence. And I know you had Mona's playing out there on the last day, and Mona's was playing the last day. I could see Spittle beating us. So we're not going in full of confidence, but we are a team. If the young players who are there in the right positions and the proper setup, and we get a bit of luck, we should be able to beat St. Grellan's. But with saying that, if we did, I'm going back to 2 years ago where we were in the intermediate relegation as well against Williamstown. And there was talk, I think Williamstown that time were only averaging, I think, 8 points per game. And they had scored 1-5 after 20 minutes against us. So we understand very well this we would be the favourites for this. And I understand why, because of the group staging and what's happened to Gabriel's. And talking to other coaches that played against Gabriel, saying they're very weak and they're very, the players that probably like that. And again, this is not being disrespectful for Gabriel's. This is no point saying, oh, we're hot. We're so confident. We're not confident. This is a relegation semi-final.
They got to a quarterfinal, like they got to a quarterfinal last year, and you don't just get to a quarterfinal, but by being, and they've been able to survive here. And as you mentioned, maybe potentially with Captagal playing a relegation semi-final next week, maybe Captagal, like I've known from talking to Stephen Craven last week on the podcast, they don't see players playing football and hurling as an issue at all really over there, and we have seen players have mixed it between football and hurling throughout the week. So there is a strong Gabriel's team here, and I know the group didn't go the way they wanted, and they'll obviously be disappointed with that result. But as you mentioned, this is a big game, like, because you've experienced this before, and like I don't think it'd be outrageous to say this, but it would be absolutely disastrous after all the hard work last year if you were to even end up in a final.
Oh, listen, it'd be absolutely disastrous. Listen, I could put another few kind of sentences with that one, and it's a place we shouldn't be. There's a lot of different thoughts on why and all this stuff, and this podcast isn't the place for it. So you kind of always have to look forward and look positive, saying that all that we learned from our mistakes and what went on, and it was such highs, and it's not that far ago. Don't forget, we're only talking in January. It was such highs of being in Croke Park and winning the Club All Ireland Junior, and we expected this click on. Mon standing down and what the management had to take on, and we have a serious talented under-19 team coming through in A. Again, I'd love to have seen more of them getting the opportunities and being backed, and which didn't happen. Maybe a bit too reliant on a few more of the senior players, and which hasn't been going well for them and stuff like that, and players playing out of position, which again they're not comfortable in. But I would just hope with this game being in the Prairie, and that the players understand the importance of this and understand the kind of clarity that we do have good players, and when they do click, can do damage. Like we talk about, like the likes of Fergal O'Shea, Onino Coulon's just come in there, like that. but again, they're not setting the world on fire where we need them. Maybe again, how would I put this way? A scenario where there's more in them. I know there's better, and there's a lot of players there. There's talk of 1 or 2 injuries in the club. Again, I'm not 100%, but again, we look at Gabriel's and we look at the players they have, like reliant on like David Malone and Chris Donlan and these guys. But again, this is not hearsay. Like, if you ask me who's going to win this game, and there's a lot of this is actually going with my heart, I would just say in Carua by 2. I know they could, if they click and the talented players click, they could win by more. I'm saying 2 because if it comes down to a bit of doggy, but we've had no luck, 0 this. Now, you make your own luck, and we're put in a situation, a lot of with the teams that's going down the field, you won't make luck. So I'm just hoping that we know the importance of this relegation game, and it's kind of and that we can pull out this win. But as you said, there's the team St. Gabriel's were in a quarterfinal last year, haven't been going well, few hurdles back. They know the importance of this game, and they're going in looking at Carrow. This is a team we can beat. So they're not going in saying we don't have a chance here. So we have 2 teams here on the ropes, and like a boxer, you only need 1 good swing and 1 punch to do a knockout.
Yeah, I think Ankara will win this by 6. I know you said a weakened Spittle team, but I just think probably for your own lads, it was important to get a win at this level, particularly heading in to the relegation semi-final as well. So I think that'll stand. The player I'll probably be looking out at, I think he's probably been one of your best performers this year, is Fergal O'Shea. He's been really impressive for Ankara throughout the championship. Who would you be expecting a big performance from here at the weekend?
It's funny now, there's a guy there, but he's been played out of position. I'd love to see him as proper position. We have a young lad there, he was on the minor last year, a guy called Ruan O'Donnell. Again, serious good talent, young lad. He's in the backs there at the moment. He's playing very well. But again, it's kind of a bit of opposition. But again, I suppose it's hard to put all the jigsaw pieces together. Again, what I call it, we're looking at the forward line there as well. Like, you've mentioned Fergal. A lot of them are frees. All that's playing well. Only Coulon's just come in there. Good minor talent there as well. Again, if he gets a bit of space, he can do damage. I think Rowan O'Donnell is going well. We got a guy, Sean Flanagan, cornerback there, another good young lad there as well, going well there. I'm just giving these are young lads now. Your listeners wouldn't have heard about. I'm just putting them out there, seeing them. They'll be guys for the future, and you'll hear a lot about them. Gabriel's in again. I suppose I'll be picking David Malone. He's shown he's putting up the scores to them. I'm mostly picking forwards here because of scores and how important it is. And that's the reason I picked 2 defenders as well. If they can kind of know that, you know what I mean? That's the difference. I don't see Carroll putting up a big score. If we do, I'll be impressed because we are showing a bit of weakness there in the back. So I'll be happy with a +1, but I'll go with +2 just based on that.
Coming to the final game in the Intermediate Championship, then 4 o'clock Saturday in Killannon, Oranmore-Maree, Clifden. Interestingly, Oranmore-Maree bet Brendan's, Clifden bet Kilkerran Clonbur coming into this one in their last games. But both Kilkerran Clonbur and Brendan's already through there, but it gave Oranmore-Maree and Clifden a chance to get wins on the board. It's going to be a tight one here.
Oh yeah, like Oranmore, and I knew this, probably the biggest disappointment this year because we expected so much about them. Like losing to Cartoon, to me O'Brien, and all right, they bet St. Brendan's. This is where you have to. I'm not looking at that last game, and like I'm only going by experience. Teams, when you know you're already through, do you kind of if you have a player that's maybe a bit of an injury, or do you kind of put them in a week beforehand or a black card? You don't. So you're not putting out your strong team when you know you're there. Same thing happened with Kilkerran Burns. Now Clifton, again, I saw them in the Divisional 3 games there. They're not a bad team. They have good players. Ger Gibbons is going very well for them. Emmett Moran, into Padraic Joyce there. But then again, you look at Mark, Jesus, these are all county underage stars like Mark Ronson, Neil Dupuy around. Well, I do expect them to win. I really do. Yeah. I do. I just think I think maybe we overrated them, but they do have serious talent. I think there's a bit of, I don't think the right team is going on the pitch. That's the way when I've seen them. I think they're a better talent than that. I've seen them under 20s, some serious talent. We know underage what they have. And I just think they have probably better players now than Clifton around the pitch. And I just think with the game, it's in Killannon. That would suit Clifton. Trust me, it's a tight kind of slanted pitch. I think it would suit them. Oranmore wouldn't have that much kind of experience playing down there. But I just think this Oranmore, I think they're in a bit of a rut in the scenario where we expected more, and there's a big game in them. And I see that, like, you know what I mean? Neil Dupere, that'd be Seán Dupere's young son. Again, this lad's only 18, serious player, Mark Robinson knows. So I think these guys are good, solid players. If they do well, they'll do like Keady midfield is a great footballer. Again, probably didn't get enough chance there with the under 20s years, like, you know, Harry Keady, a very serious talent. Again, his curve is going up, like, so I kind of look at it that way. I just think they have on paper and then they click. I think Oranmore would have too much for this Clifden team, and I'd see Oranmore with +4.
Four, yeah. I'm gone the exact same as you there. I think Seán Dupere's young lad there, Dale Dupere,
Yeah,
was really impressive in the last game. I don't think I'm fairly sure the first game maybe he mightn't have started for them.
he didn't
He didn't
start. Yeah, he
really,
was on ice. Came
yeah,
back. He's a bit of an injury, like, and he's
yeah,
got a serious boot on himself. Really,
yeah.
they say a serious driver. I think he's got 3 2-pointers to date. So if you give that young lad any space outside that D, he will punish you. Like, and a good footballer, one to watch. But again, a young footballer needs time, needs space, needs backing from a manager, a talent for a guy. And I mentioned Harry Keady as well before, another good lad coming through was on that time. If he gives a bit of space and a bit of talent, they will do. They will be their names will be hearing a lot in the future.
For sure. Just then on the junior championship in Northboard, the way it is at the minute is Williamstown 5 points, Killearn they're on 5 points as well. All their games are done though, so there is a round of it this weekend. Hepford on 4, Ballinasloe they're on 2 points, and Athenry they are on 0 points, and they are out of the championship. Williamstown will be looking for a win against Athenry, which would see them seal top spot on 7 points and go straight into a Northboard final. As I mentioned, Athenry are already out, and then Hepford are playing Ballinasloe. So Hepford are basically looking to beat Ballinasloe and get a home Northboard semi-final then against Killearn, and Ballinasloe are actually looking to beat Hepford, knock them out of the championship this weekend. Because they'd have obviously the head-to-head rule on them there, so that's how the Northboard Championship is being played out at the minute. Then when it comes to Westboard, Carnacashel, they play on Arroch, Clonbur this weekend at 1 o'clock. In Carnacashel, Father Griffin's Air Oak, they play Renville at 1 o'clock at home. Amazingly, for Father Griffin's Air Oak, if they win this weekend, they're straight into the Westboard final, and it would then you would likely to be see Carnacashel and on Arroch, Clonbur in the second and third spots there. Just a quick word on it, John. You obviously seen a bit of the junior championship when you were down there last year. Have you been surprised with the way it's played out this year?
Not really, no. In all fairness, I suppose the surprise was last week, I think, when Cairn are losing to Father Griffins. But then when you look at, I seen Father Griffins last year, they've a solid team. I expected actually Cairn to win that game, Corn the Cashel. Good young players coming through, very confident. I think they were caught on the hop. But Father Griffin's there. If you were asking me to pick a winner from the Westboard, I think maybe it wasn't a bad thing that Corn lost the game, being that it was maybe a bit of a wake up. That if they did, being with that, if I was Father Griffins, I would not like to meet Corn the Cashel again. So based on what I'm seeing at the moment on the North board, I do see Corn the Cashel beating Dunmore Clonbur, and then I'd see Corn then again, as we said, against Father Griffins, and I could see Corn being the Westboard final winners. Northboard then Killearn. Killearn again, what I saw last year.
Williamstown,
Williamstown, sorry,
it was
Williamstown.
Killearn, Hepford, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, Headford. But I just think Killearn, what I saw last year and the hurt, and we should have been beaten by them in the county final. Again, I mentioned it a few times here. A miracle kick by Siobhan O'Brien at the din just to win it. But I just see what Tom Hughes and the boys and Fit Donoghue and these guys, I just think Killearn, with what happened last year and what I've seen so far, that they should have enough experience to get to the final. But then with saying that, the usual suspects are there, as I say, with Williamstown and Brendan Ballygal. But I just see Killearn just to win it. So then Killearn then in Cornacashel in the final. We'll have to wait till that day to see what happens.
Yeah, that's what you're calling there. Just as well with this, with the junior championship, the primary junior two winners will come into this as well. So the way
Yeah.
that is, that's at the final round at the minute. Down play Curfin at 6:30 in Craig Friday evening, and Mountbellew play Claregalway. The way that table is at the minute is Claregalway on 5 points in top spot, Tube Stairs second on 4 points, Mountbellew they're in third place on 3 points, Curfin then fourth on 2 points, and Anna Down bottom on 2 points there. But it is still fairly tight when it comes there to the on the primary junior two northboard. The way the westboard is, it's
I'd see Clare Galway there. I'd say probably they would top that, I'd say.
yeah, yeah. It could even come down to head to heads there,
Yeah.
with how tight it is as well. And then on the primary two, junior Westboard, Mike Cullen play James's in Mike Cullen at 6:45 on Friday, and Michael's they play Salt Hill at 6:45 as well. The way that table is at the minute is Salt Hill top spot 4 points, then it's James's second place at 2 points, Mike Cullen third place at 2 points, and then Michael's bottom there. You probably would be expecting, you'd imagine, Sawtill
I
probably to
will.
come
It's the
through
usual
that.
suspect for the second teams every year. It's
Yeah.
nearly always Salthill there, and based on that, so I would expect Salthill to top that again. With the again, it comes down to panels and how strong they are. So if you're asking me, I see Salthill, Clare Galway in that final there for that one there to play. Again, I still think it's ridiculous regarding the
Yeah.
way the system's done, but we've had this conversation last year how it's done out regarding you play a
I think if
final,
you're
which
go
is in a
yeah.
county final. So I would
If you're gonna have second teams involved, I think you throw them all in then in the one and just make it a
great.
county championship, because
Exactly.
I just think it comes against the club. Like for any first team club who wins this championship at the end of the year, and I know Manus was vocal when he's been on it with the podcast. He thinks it's a mistake that's being made. You could potentially play, like, yeah, you're ultimately you have to win three championships to be guaranteed an intermediate club, and then you could have a Connacht championship game for that club thrown in the middle of it as well. Like it's just a lot. But you could have three or four crucial games there on the trot, 3 or 4 weekends in a row.
It is. It's kind of like I kind of see the county board kind of see no evil, hear no evil. We keep mentioning it and we keep talking about it. We keep seeing nothing happening about it. But this comes down to the clubs, Paul. Clubs have votes on this and they
Yeah.
have to be heard. And they keep going to this thing. And I don't think and I'm going about our divisional teams as well. I think sometimes it's just the same people going to the same meetings, um, putting up their paddle for the same questions. I think sometimes you need a big rattle the cage at a county board meeting. And again, it's the members and the clubs need to push it to the delegates and it needs to be pushed forward. We need change. And it's not a revolution, it's change for the better Galway football. And that's the most important thing. Try it out, give it a 2 year, three. Look at the rules, the new rules. Everyone's nearly saying couldn't accept the best thing that ever happened. And I'm going to endorse Jim Gavin for president as well because he saved football. He'll save the presidency of Ireland too. So you know what I mean like that. So that's my pulpit seat here for Jim Gavin for president.
You can be sure he can use that now. Sean O'Donnell's behind him as president. Just as well, a quick mention: there's Junior B, Junior C, and Junior D finals on at the weekend. Curfin play Anna Down at 3:15 on Saturday in Tuam Stadium. For Curfin, you have Justin Burke, you have Shane Monaghan, Alan Burke, all these players lining up. And on the Anna Down
All
side,
Ireland winners. Yeah.
yeah, on
How
the
many
Anna
teams do
Downs.
they have? Like
Yeah. And on the downside of things, you have Anthony Pender, who's obviously playing for years for the senior football team. Martin O'Neill, who was there as well. So great to see all those players
I see
still.
legends of football and to go out, the supporters to go out and support them because I know they won't be there that long putting on the club jersey and it shows you the dedication and what they do for their clubs and giving back to their clubs because it's not just football and coaching. So you only put your hand up and just clap them because they're actually legends and they deserve this recognition and all what goes on.
Definitely, I'd agree with you 100% there. And then just Junior D final Saturday as well. At 1 o'clock, it's in and down. It's Tuam Stairs and Oughterard. And then the Junior C county final between Killearn and Claregalway. That's at 12:30 in Curfin on Sunday. So there's three county titles up for grabs at those
Yeah,
grades at the weekend. So big for those clubs involved as well. But that's all we do have time for on today's show. Sean, thanks very much for coming on.
no bother, Paul. Thanks very much.